Welcome to r/entitled people, where we share stories from your lives about people who think the rules don't apply to them, and they should get what they want. Thank you, friends, for subscribing to the channel, and for so many likes. And today we have 3 great stories, so subscribe, hit the like button, and let's begin. The first story, I definitely just quit. The second story, a colleague lost his job because of his crazy wife. The third story, employers lied about salary in job post. The first story is, I think I just quit. So I, 21 female, went into work this morning as usual. Things were going fine until I clocked in the office, which I'm not supposed to do, even though all the managers do it. I'm a cashier. I have to come back to the office anyways to get my till. I'm the head cashier. I have the bloody safe combination, and I get paid almost as much as the managers and have similar responsibilities. And when the opening managers started berating me, everything just sort of exploded. I've been considering leaving for a while. Between petty things like this, scheduling issues, we're low-staffed yet get dozens of applications a week, and corporate being out of touch, I'm sick of it. I talked back to her. I yelled, I took off my vest and left a few keys I had. I'm not considered a key holder, but I had keys to the glass cases, and a couple of other things, just not the front doors, and effing left. Either I'm gonna call my boss or he'll call me first later. I don't know. I don't particularly want to leave, but I can't effing take it anymore. And I know a lot of my coworkers are at similar points. It's only been about a half an hour since all this, and I'm currently laying in bed applying for new jobs. Update. So Tuesday afternoon, I messaged my boss saying that I'd be willing to talk about things, and we made a plan for me to come in this Thursday morning. He sat me down in his office and asked me what he wanted to discuss. I felt it appropriate to start with what happened on Tuesday morning, explaining that one of my major gripes recently has been the insistence on having me and all my cashiers clock in outside of the office, despite the fact that we have to come in there to get our tills before going out to register anyways. I explained to him that in addition to those reasons, it also frustrates me because while the office is supposed to be a place with limited going in and out due to it being where the safe is, that's where we keep the scanners that anyone is allowed to grab and use. Plus, the door is frequently propped open in the mornings, which can only be for ease of getting in and out of the office. I told him I felt this was incredibly hypocritical, and he doubled down. He explained that it wasn't his rule, it was corporate's, and that because we have cameras facing every computer terminal, it's his job to enforce it. This moved me on to my second point, how I feel that corporate is very, very disconnected from reality. Aside from them apparently not being willing to budge on a small dumb rule, they also aren't willing to adapt to the new environment their most recent store, mine, is in. You see, this business I previously worked for is predominantly a farm supply store, and it also sells clothing, tools, and other household supplies, plumbing and electrical accessories, etc. It is in general a pretty niche store. If you're not coming in there with something specific in mind, you probably won't be buying much of anything. The thing is though, most of the other places that these stores are in are very tiny communities, towns with less than 10,000 people, spread across the Midwest and Rockies. So their business model of having one cashier most of the day and only a small handful of people around the store works, because the amount of customers that they get is low, but plenty enough to keep a good profit margin because of how few employees they have. However, my location is the first time they ventured into an area anywhere near this size, and they also purchased a huge building. Our store is about 3 times the size of the average one, and a population center about 10 times the average size of others. The greater area of my city is close to 10,000 people. This is great for them, right? Except that they think they can run this store the same way that they do all their other ones. They keep us low staffed, average about 1 to 2 people per section in this gigantic store, including cashiers. And the wages also don't reflect being in a larger urban area. I personally was making $15.50 as the head cashier, but I know a lot of the high school kids are making around or less than $12. Oh, and did I mention there's like 6 stores in this city with a very similar product lineup, who all have a customer base already that our location has to compete with, while almost none of the other locations do? Despite this, and he even showed me, we frequently get in mountains of applications, usually from younger kids wanting to work. And yet my boss ignores them, despite many of my coworkers expressing distaste at the practice. I told this all to my boss in not as many words, and while I know he alone obviously cannot speak for corporate, he certainly has the power to communicate such concerns. But instead of promising me he'd do that, he went on to explain his own effing sob story to try to convince me that this is the greatest company he's ever worked for, and that I should be grateful. This sob story included how he drove 4 hours round trip to work at a pharmacy where he was practically the only employee for months, working open to close alone for 7 days a week. And when I asked him if he felt drained every day when he got home, I know I certainly effing would have. He told me he didn't because having a career where he was dependent on like that was invigorating to him. I legitimately felt sorry for him in that moment. He's a 60-year-old guy who's been brainwashed so hard into thinking that dedicating 16 hours a day, 7 days a week to your job is something honorable. He also mentioned how he used to be the manager at a store, where if the chastises didn't reach their minimum 5 credit card signups during their shift, they would be written up, and how he himself would be berated on an hour-long phone call. That was how he was trying to convince me that despite their shortcomings, this is the best company he's ever worked for. And to that I told him, I'm sorry dude, but not being an a-hole to your employees is not an accomplishment. It's what should be done. The next part went by a bit blurry because by this point I was peeved, and he was just blabbing and trying to pad things out and keep me listening. But I do remember him bringing up how nice of the company it was to have given all their employees gift boxes for Christmas, which I had to really try hard not to roll my eyes at, because it was a box of stuff like veggies, fruits, and snacks, which while I thought was cute, I would have much preferred, I don't know, maybe a raise, but whatever. Anyway, finally another manager knocks on the door saying there's a major problem. That problem being something customer's card declined via insufficient funds. But out machines are effing dumb, and don't let us void certain cards, and he doesn't know what to do. Lucky for him, I do, and I explain, finish the transaction as if the customer had given cash for the rest, and then post-void that transaction. And he says, I don't really know how to do that. He's a newer manager without much registered training. And to that, you want to know what I said, my fellow anti-workers? I'm sorry, but I don't presently work here. Finally, my boss got the message and was livid. He said, well, have a good day, OP. I appreciate the passion there, because I'll take that as your resignation. And I walked out afterwards, didn't look back. I could hear him going, I can't believe it, that's unbelievable, as I did so. So yes, I indeed very much quit. The second story is, my ex-colleague's entitled wife cost him his job and their marriage as well. Backstory. My former colleague has had trouble keeping up at work, often missed his project's deadline, collaboration between mine and his team, because he refused to stay back. Wife didn't like him to do so, and had more than once showed up unceremoniously at our workplace hurling insults and screaming for her husband to come home ASAP, to deliver any urgent project. Also for context, this isn't a common thing for us. Staying back after hours only happen when a project is due delivery, and the company compensate OT and meal allowances, us for the after hours. During the company's dinner, she sarcastically said to me, oh, you're the other woman who's always on someone's husband's business. Just because a few weeks before that, I insisted for him to stay back and finish his part of the project, after his team leader didn't manage to do so and asked me for help. I shut her down as politely as I could, and told him whatever relationship issues he had was with her, shouldn't be any of my problem. So I made a complaint to HR, and apparently this isn't the first complaint about his incompetence due to problems with the wife. HR is at their absolute limit this time. We are at year-end appraisal. I know it's weird, but it just so happens for this company, they do in November and we get our bonuses by end of December. And HR has been gathering not just his team, but also pretty much the entire company about his performance. While this is not a conglomerate, it's still a pretty solid 300 plus staff. HR also tracks all his involvements in every project we've had this year, to see if he had caused any blockage that led us to bleed money. Suffice to say, it's not looking very good for him. Due to this, he has caused 2 late deliveries and 1 client's refusal to renew a contract. The blockage from his side has also led to a high turnover for his team. 3 junior engineers left because they can't stand his work ethic, as they were the one who had to pick up his slack. So yeah, he was asked to leave. Well, story hasn't ended yet. The next week, the wife showed up at work causing a ruckus, yelling and screaming who made her husband lost his job. And she ran straight to the discussion room I was in, barged through and started calling me a colorful array of insults. Not only that, she tried to tackle me, but security did tackle her first, haha. She destroyed a few office furniture during her rampage, and slammed one of our interns' laptops on the floor. When they tell you no wrath like a woman's anger, well, this is the description for it. Police were called, etc., and she was locked up. What I heard from other teammates is that the wife is the super jealous type, and has been controlling his money as well. So when he broke the news, she pretty much got enraged that they're not going to be able to sustain their lavish lifestyle. Wife is a stay-at-home, lucky thing is they have no kids. So now my ex-colleague went from just losing his job to being faced with charges of property destruction, possibly also looking at instant termination, because he was there all along when his wife were yelling at everyone at the office. He was the one who tapped his access card and let her in. Yesterday, a colleague told me he moved out of his marital home and is filing divorce from the wife. I guess years of encouraging his wife's entitled and controlling behavior is finally biting him back in the A. Edit. Dude worked for 9 years before he was asked to leave. He had been married to his wife for the last 6 years. I'm not the first one to complain about him and the complaint about his wife meddling again in his work responsibilities. Just because somebody's in an abusive relationship, the company's not responsible for the personal life. Plus, 6 years being married to her, and in that run, multiple colleagues have extended their sympathy and tried to help him out. Even a manager has once allowed him to stay at his place after the wife threw him out of their home, due to some tantrum relating to work. He ended up going back to her, so yeah, he's been encouraging her behavior all these while. And I don't say this lightly as someone who's been in an abusive relationship as well. Victim blaming? FFR, we're all adult, and expected to have some sense of personal responsibility. Comments saying company punished him for refusing overtime is stupid as well. And I don't know if your workplace tolerates blockage in project pipeline the way you can refuse work when it's your responsibility. This is not picking up extra shifts from Walmart. This is picking up your slack, or a teammate's slack when an entire team has to stay back, just so we could deliver within deadlines. While the company for sure could have handled it from the start, teams are expected to teamwork it, and do your due diligence. There's been instances where some people didn't stay for personal obligations, and it's understood by the company. However, whenever this guy stayed back, due to his slacks, it's a 70% chance his wife would show up and throw a tantrum. We're all exec levels and above here. Most companies don't compensate you for overtime work, but ours did with meal allowances and hourly pay. We're not America here. Our labor law is different. We're paid a solid monthly salary. Company discourage overtime just because you want to make extra money. Claims of OT has to be submitted with proof of work and signed off by managers and team leader, which is me and another guy. This hyper-individual culture from these comments are getting way out of hand. I don't know where you guys work, but heck, if you're allowed to do whatever SH you want just because you have long-running personal issues. And anyway, not America here. Our law is different. He was asked to leave, not immediately terminated. The grace period after you're asked to leave is 2 weeks for handover, hence why his access card is still activated. And the last story is, husband walked out of an interview when he found out the wage. Marco's Pizza job posting for a delivery driver position shows $15.45 an hour plus tips. He applied last night and receives a call to come in for an interview this afternoon. Seems shady with how quick it happened, but he wanted to give it a shot. Before the interview, we're prepping him for what to do if they try to pull a fast one. It's sad he didn't have high hopes with him going into the interview. We discussed him walking in with the attitude that he doesn't need them as much as they need him. The interview was at 2 p.m. I received a call at 2:03 p.m. They passed him a piece of paper to write his info down so they can add him to the group message, because they're hiring drivers on the spot. They wanted to offer him $7.25 an hour, and argue that he could make $30 an hour with tips. He told them he could make $20 an hour with DoorDash, and would not accept their pitiful offer. The interviewer got upset, stopped talking, and walked to the back of the store. They wasted his time with their job posting, and were unprofessional and disrespectful when he stood up for better wages. Looking for jobs right now is an absolute joke and waste of time. The working class is not respected, and asking for a living wage is met with attitude. These businesses are going to learn the hard way that we can't be pushed around anymore. Thank you for watching. Be sure to subscribe, hit the like button, and have a good day.